Hey, this is Crystal with Miss Multifamily and Self Storage. Hello, hello. I had an amazing time today with a bunch of you over at our monthly meetup where we talked about scaling the wall of finding and analyzing apartment deals. So some of you could not make it and were at your jobs. So I thought I would do a little recording so you can go back and you can watch what we went over. This will be the abbreviated version for those that missed it. All right, let's get right into it. So scaling the wall of finding and analyzing apartment deals. Number one is, how do you find apartment properties? And once you find those apartment properties, how do you analyze the properties? So before I get into it, who am I? Why should you listen to me? So a lot of you are new to the group. I am Crystal DeBoer, and I am owner of multifamily and self-storage properties. And my passion is to educate and help others get into the industry and learn the ins and outs and change their families' lives like it has changed mine. So I have always been in real estate. I was in residential real estate for many, many years. And then 3 years ago, I made the jump to commercial, where I started learning about apartments, learning about self-storage, learning how to own and operate these properties with a lot of mentorship and a lot of help. I had an amazing person, happened to be my brother, Jennings Smith, who runs an amazing Facebook group, My First Million in Multifamily. If you are not a part of it, go check it out. It's incredible. And he started teaching me how to do all of this. And now I am a part owner of 405 multifamily units, which equals 4 different complexes. I also have gotten involved in self-storage facilities, which I love. I am a part owner in 5 different facilities, which is 613 units. So that portfolio looks like $14 million, and that will continue to grow and appreciate. And as we force the value and as we do the work that we are doing to make these places better, make them more efficient, and make them more income producing, should grow to 24 to 30 million in the next 5 to 10 years. So how do you find apartment properties? That is why we are all here. That is what I am passionate about and have spent so much time learning and doing. Because if you can't find your first apartment property, then you can't get into the space, right? Finding that first deal is just so important because it gives you credibility and it helps you have a road in with brokers and just others that are in the industry. It gives you credibility. So what do? Number one, easiest is to find on-market properties. So on-market properties are those that are listed on LoopNet, Crexi. LoopNet and Crexi are the MLS, the multiple listing service of the commercial world, right? So these are your properties that brokers have listed and that they have put up for sale. So you can go on there, you can search your area, and you can set up searches so that you get pinged anytime a property comes on the market that's in the area that you're interested in. I will say on-market properties are usually pretty picked over. They've already been looked over by big investment groups. They've already been looked over. Brokers usually shop those listings to their pocket buyers before they put them online. So by the time it gets online, they're not as great deals. However, you can find them. And if you're creative and you can just have eyes that other people don't, you can find some great deals. So that being said, the place where you want to focus a lot of your energy and your effort, which is where I've focused mine, is on finding off-market properties. So off-market properties are off-market. So where do you find these guys? Where do you find these properties that nobody else knows about? How do you know about them? So number one, wholesalers. So wholesalers are people that are for a living calling sellers. Most wholesalers are single-family home wholesalers. So they're putting single-family homes under contract, and then they're selling those contracts. Now, multifamily and self-storage wholesalers have seen the bigger picture, and they're going after multifamily sellers and self-storage ones. So if you can start connecting with bigger wholesalers that are finding these kinds of properties, connect with them, let them know you're a viable buyer, you can do this, and you want to know about these properties, let them know what's in your buy box. Like, what are you interested in? And then they'll send you stuff. 2 or 3 of my self-storage facilities came from a wholesaler connection. And they're really, or actually 4. So yes, so you definitely want to pay attention to your wholesalers and start building relationships with them. How do you find those guys? Usually Facebook is great. You can join Facebook groups. Wholesaler investor groups are great. Just start making connections, networking. The second one is networking with brokers. So wholesalers are going to find these smaller properties. 50 units and under is usually what a wholesaler is going to be able to bring you. These larger apartments that are 100 units, 200 units, 400 units, those are all going to be going through brokers. It's very rare that you would have a direct to seller connection unless you know the seller personally, which does start to happen in this industry. But when you're beginning, you're going to want to go through your brokers. So as you start networking with brokers, letting them know who you are, calling them, saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and start building relationships with them. They will call you when they have a seller that wants to list their property. And before they take it to market, they'll take it to you. So that's really important to network with your brokers, your commercial brokers. And you can do that through Facebook. You can do that through phone calling them, emailing them. All of those things are good ways to do it. Facebook is a great way to network with other people in the industry. So, for example, one property that I was a part of, we bought it and we did renovations and we made a lot of changes, increased the rent roll, and we wound up flipping that property more quickly than we had planned on. And we wound up selling it to someone that we had connected with through Facebook. That was another multifamily owner and buyer, and they got that deal through the Facebook connection. So it is important to be in Miss Multifamily, to be in My First Million in Multifamily, these groups that are where people are really doing these deals and own these properties. Okay. Then you're going to have your cold calling, just cold calling sellers. How do you do that? Well, Reonomy is a service that you can buy the subscription. It is pricier. And so if you're in the beginning, that might not be the route you want to go. However, Reonomy is a great resource. You just type in the address of your property you're looking at, and it will bring up the records of who owns it, their phone number, their contact information. All of that is in Reonomy. So that's a great resource. However, if you don't have that, call the management number. So you drive by, I drove by a 32 unit the other day and the number's right there on the side of the building. Dialed it up, called it, talked to a lot of mom and pops have their phone number on their buildings. It's amazing how that works. And even if it's not the owner that you get, a lot of times you'll get their property manager. You can start building a relationship with the property manager, because property managers are direct to owners and they know when an owner might want to sell or when an owner's ready to move on. Those are really good connections as well. So always be talking, always be connecting and networking with the people that are connected to the properties. Now, say you found one, you've got your property. And when I first started, and just to give you a little perspective, it took me 9 months of solid everyday calling, networking, working to get my first contract or to get my first property closed. Okay. So, and I want to say 7 to 8 of them, letters of intents were sent out, put under contract, 2 or 3 of them that fell apart. So you have to have that persevering mindset where you are going to keep going until you get it, right? So don't be discouraged. It takes time. It takes effort. This is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and it's building long-term wealth. It's building retirement wealth. It's building generational wealth. So don't get discouraged. It takes a while. All right. How do you analyze the properties? So you have a property, the seller says, yes, I am interested. Or the broker says, hey, I've got this property that they're wanting to move it. What do you think? So what do you do at that point? All right. So here are some general rules of thumbs that you're going to want to look for when you're looking at the property. Look at your purchase price and compare it to the rent. Most of us have heard of the 1% rule in investing, right? So if you can buy a single family home for $100,000 and you can get $1,000 a month in rent, you're getting 1%. So most investors are looking for at least that return, right? So we're looking in the multifamily world for 1 to 2%, and closer to 1.5% is what I'm usually looking for. So for example, You've got your purchase price plus any costs you might have to close it, to renovate it, to do any major, renovations that are going to be needed in the first year. And then you take that total number and you divide it by how many doors. So real life example, $1 million for 20 doors, just keeping it, or it's not a real life example. It's an easy math example, right? So $1 million, 20 doors. So that equals each door costs $50,000. So each apartment is going to cost you $50,000. So as a result, you're going to want to see 1 to 2% metric of rent, which equals $500 to $750 to $1,000 in rent. So look at that. Look at their rent roll. Are they getting close to that? If they're not getting close to that, can you get close to that? So you go to places like apartments.com and you look at what is the rent in that area for a 2-bedroom? What is the rent in that area for a 1-bedroom? If you do some improvements and make it nicer, can you get that higher rent that is going to get you that 1 to 2% metric? So it doesn't already have to be getting that metric, but you want to make sure that you can get there, right? So then after that, that's your first rule of thumb that you're going to look at. What's your rent metric? Your next one is make sure you run your numbers with 50% of your income going out the door to expenses. Okay, so this is your taxes, insurance, maintenance, management fees, legal fees, just expenses in general. There's a whole list of them. And so you just, when you're doing your napkin math, know that, okay, if this property is bringing in $20,000 in rent per month, 10,000 of it, I need to budget that is going back out the door to handle expenses. Okay. So then that leaves 10,000 left for you to cover your debt, right? So that's the next thing. So debt service. So you've got 10 grand left. So then say your debt service is $8,000 a month. Okay. So from the bank, your bank loan, you got $8,000. So you have $2,000 a month of cash flow on that property. So now you know, okay, the property cash flows, it covers its expenses, it covers its debts, and this is worth looking at more closely. This is worth looking at and doing a walkthrough, inspections, putting it under contract, kind of a thing. Okay. And during that kind of due diligence period is when you're going to be analyzing the actual property. Does it need major renovations? Does it need any major CapEx like the roofs? So my first property, when I walked the property with my partner and inspector, it was kind of like, 4 out of 5 of these apartment buildings are going to need metal roofs in the next year or two. And that's a major expense. And back then that was going to cost about $100,000. It has wound up costing us more than that because of all the rising labor costs and renovation, labor and material cost. However, we were able to negotiate a seller credit for $100,000 to handle that CapEx information. So that's all really good that you need to know before you purchase the property. Okay. So if it cash flows, and if it will cash flow after you've stabilized it more significantly, then that's a good deal. So here is my 5-minute quick analyzer that I shared. And if you would like a copy of this, drop or send me a PM with your email, and I will be happy to email it to you. So this is just literally a 5-minute. You can plug in the numbers, purchase price, remodel budget, average rent, unit count, expense ratio, and kind of get a good idea if this is a property I should pursue more closely. And so I always recommend people that are first starting to go to LoopNet, go to Crexy, and start plugging in the numbers into this just to start getting your brain acclimated and learning the process. Also, I will say, like, the market is shifting now. So we are moving more into a buyer's market. We've been in a seller's market for about 1.5 years. So, COVID threw things for a loop, and now we're moving. Things were really high in the multifamily, and now they're evening out with the interest rates rising. So there are deals to be found. There are owners that are needing to exit their properties because maybe loans are coming due. Maybe, their business plan didn't go as they had planned, all of these things. And so that's what you're kind of looking for, those properties that they need to sell. And then plug them in and see if you can maybe be a part of the solution. And, one of the questions that came up in the noontime discussion was, how do you get the down payment? So obviously, as we're looking at these, and we're looking at $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, $50 million, like the scale is very great for how much these properties can cost. If you're looking at smaller properties, like say 50 units and under, maybe you are wanting to bring the down payment and just do it all yourself. Or maybe you need to bring in some investor money, that you are looking for partners that have capital, because or you need to bring in partners that will help you qualify for the loans. All of those is also a part of how you're going to start building your network, because you finding a property, and you finding a deal, and you finding a seller that wants to sell is a huge part of the puzzle, right? And so there are people that have resources, that are loan sponsors, that can do those kinds of things, that are not putting in the sweat equity that you may be able to do finding these properties. So don't get intimidated that, well, I don't have $500,000, or I don't have $1 million in the bank for this down payment, so I'm not even going to try to go after these kinds of properties. That's where the larger network of people that are in this multifamily world, everyone brings different things to the table. So you find out what you bring to the table and bring it, and then see who can bring what you need. Okay. Just to give you hope and encouragement, my first property, I did not have the down payment for, and I could not qualify for the loan on my own. And so I had to bring in partners that could do that with me. I also was able to negotiate seller financing to help with the down payment. And I had partners that were able to sign on the loan. And so that all of us start somewhere. So do not be intimidated by, I don't have all the pieces. None of us do until we do. And then we can help others, and then we can make more partnerships in the future. All right, everyone, that's all I have for today. Have a beautiful day. Hope this recording's helpful. Take care. Oh, and don't forget to email me or PM me if you want the deal analyzer. All right.